In Africa, many politicians are known for being involved in bribery and corruption, which is very shameful. They either give bribes to get something in return, or they accept bribes. This behavior has contributed to Africa not developing well and has made people think Africa can't govern itself. But that's not true. In Africa, there are both bad and good leaders, although the good ones who truly care about their people and their country are fewer in number. Recently, there's been a surprising example of a trustworthy African leader who is among the few good ones. What's surprising is that this leader isn't from the usual democratic system, which many people think is the best way to govern. Instead, he comes from the military. This leader is General Tiani, the military leader of Niger, who took power in a coup in July 2023. When he first came into power, the world and regional organizations like Ikawas criticized him and his government, asking them to return power to civilian rule as soon as possible. In the middle of all the pressure from other countries and groups nearby, General Tiani of Niger stayed strong in his decision to keep control, even when people wanted him to give it back to civilian leaders. He got most of his support from the people of Niger, who were tired of being poor and suffering under the previous leader, Mohamed Bazoum, who they thought was controlled by France. Even though many big countries like France and groups like the one led by Nigerian President Tinubu told him to step down, General Tiani didn't budge. Now, because of his determination, Niger has kicked out French soldiers, ended its unfair deal with France, and is starting to be recognized as being run by its military. Recent news from a local Nigerian news source called Le Monde d'Aujourd'hui talked about how the French President Emmanuel Macron tried to convince General Tiani to give back power to Bazoum by offering him a huge amount of money. General Tiani said no to the money, which really upset France. They even had to move their soldiers from Burkina Faso to Niger to try to keep their influence there. France was losing its power in the area because countries like Mali and Burkina Faso were no longer doing what France wanted. When General Tiani took over, it was like the final hit to France's control in the region, because he removed the leader France liked the most. This showed that General Tiani was serious about leading Niger in a way that wasn't controlled by foreign countries, especially France. As Mali and Burkina Faso distanced themselves from France's influence, France realized its grip on the Sahel region was weakening. Concerned about losing control entirely, France took desperate measures to maintain its hold. However, a significant setback occurred with the coup led by General Tiani, removing France's preferred African leader from power. Determined to retain its influence in Niger, France explored all possible avenues to reinstate its favored leader. While publicly condemning the coup alongside other Western nations, France secretly resorted to bribery, attempting to persuade the Niger military junta to return power to civilian rule. Behind the scenes, France engaged in covert negotiations, offering financial incentives in exchange for compliance with their agenda. These clandestine efforts showcased France's determination to preserve its interests in Niger, despite facing challenges to its traditional sphere of influence in the region. Despite their outward condemnation of the coup, France's actions underscored their willingness to manipulate political dynamics to serve their own strategic objectives. This covert approach highlighted the complex power struggles and geopolitical interests at play in the Sahel region, with France attempting to assert its dominance amidst shifting alliances and emerging leadership. France might have assumed that General Tiani would follow the pattern of many African leaders, known for their willingness to accept bribes and change course when pressured. However, President Macron was in for a surprise when General Tiani turned down the bribe, returning it instead. With bribery off the table, France shifted tactics, backing Ikawas' threat of military intervention in Niger. However, this move faced resistance when Mali and Burkina Faso indicated they would support Niger against any military action by Ikawas, escalating tensions in the region. The prospect of war was unwelcome to all parties, including Ikawas, leading to the abandonment of plans for military intervention. Despite France's efforts, Niger slipped from its grasp. leaving Chad as the sole country in the Sahel where France's influence remained somewhat intact. Even this influence is precarious, as Chad's military junta recently engaged in discussions with Russia, hinting at potential cooperation. If this collaboration materializes, France would lose its remaining foothold in the Sahel. Ultimately, such a development could be beneficial, as each Sahelian country deserves independence and autonomy, free from external influences. General Tiani's rejection of President Macron's bribe not only demonstrates his strong leadership qualities, but also underscores his dedication to Niger's independence and sovereignty. Much like Ibrahim Traoré, General Tiani sets a commendable example for other leaders to follow. The fact that President Macron considered bribery as an option suggests that France has resorted to such tactics numerous times to ensure compliance from African leaders. These leaders, whoever they may be, fail to embody true leadership and could learn valuable lessons from General Tiani's integrity. France's attempt to bribe the Niger military junta highlights their desperation to maintain control over a country that rightfully belongs to its people. Their reliance on cheap natural resources obtained at the expense of the Nigerian people further underscores their disregard for sovereignty and self-determination. In a recent interview, General Tiani shed light on the hardships endured by the people of Niger due to sanctions imposed by the regional bloc, Ikawas, in August 2023. He also revealed a startling revelation concerning a statement made by the French president amidst tensions between Niger and France. General Tiani recounted an incident where a member country of the European Union suggested a diplomatic approach to resolve the crisis stemming from the coup during a video conference with other EU members. Notably, French President Macron was absent from this meeting. According to General Tiani, the proposal involved negotiating with Niger rather than adopting an aggressive stance against its military government. However, upon learning of this proposal, President Macron reportedly made a shocking statement. The general claimed that President Macron asserted Niger belonged to France, implying it was not the responsibility of any other nation to propose a solution to the ongoing situation. General Tiani's response to President Macron's statement exemplifies a firm stance on Niger's sovereignty and historical significance. By highlighting that Niger had its own established social organization prior to French colonial rule, General Tiani not only asserts the country's independence, but also challenges any attempts to undermine its autonomy. His call for confirmation from the country present during the video conference underscores the importance of accountability in international discourse. If corroborated, President Macron's remarks would not only reflect a concerning lack of understanding of Niger's history, but also raise questions about France's approach to its former colonies. General Tiani's concluding remarks emphasize the principle of mutual respect in international relations. By asserting that cooperation with Niger should be based on respect for its sovereignty, he reaffirms the country's right to self-determination and equal standing among nations. This exchange between General Tiani and President Macron highlights broader issues of colonial legacy, sovereignty, and diplomatic conduct in international affairs. It underscores the ongoing struggle for recognition and respect faced by former colonial territories, and the importance of asserting their independence on the global stage. The increasing acceptance of Russia in Africa reflects a significant shift in diplomatic dynamics, driven by Russia's approach of engaging African nations as partners on equal footing, rather than adopting a patronizing or paternalistic stance. In contrast, France's traditional approach, characterized by a hierarchical relationship with its former colonies, has faced scrutiny and criticism in light of evolving global norms and African aspirations for autonomy and self-determination. For France to regain relevance and credibility in its partnerships with Sahelian countries, it must acknowledge and adapt to these changing dynamics. This entails embracing a more respectful and equitable approach that recognizes African nations' agency and sovereignty. The recent series of coups across the Sahel region has not only reshaped the political landscape, but has also brought forth a new generation of leaders, many of whom emerge from military backgrounds. While coups are often associated with instability and authoritarianism, They have also provided opportunities for charismatic and capable individuals to assume leadership roles, promising stability and reform in their respective countries. The emergence of military leaders as potential agents of change in Africa raises important questions about the nature of governance and leadership in the region. While civilian rule remains the preferred model of governance in many democratic societies, the effectiveness and legitimacy of military leadership cannot be overlooked, particularly in contexts where civilian institutions have faltered or been undermined by corruption and incompetence. As Africa navigates these complex challenges and opportunities, it is essential to foster dialogue and debate about the role of the military in governance and the broader trajectory of democracy on the continent. By engaging in constructive discussions and exchanges of ideas, stakeholders can work towards building more inclusive, accountable, and resilient political systems that reflect the aspirations and priorities of African citizens. Your insights and opinions on these matters are invaluable. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Let's continue this important conversation and collectively chart a path towards a better future for Africa.